Boruto's new sword is unlike anything we've ever seen before, a weapon that blends the realm of science and the supernatural, giving him the power to extend his abilities and even weaken his enemies. There's also a secret compound built into it that changes the very nature of the blade itself. This will allow Boruto to negate Kawaki's most troublesome ability, but the real question is how? Well, this all goes back to Sumire's hidden connection to the Ten Tails and Amado's experiment with the cells of Shibai Otsutsuki. You see, Boruto's new blade underwent a complete transformation. The shape itself has been altered for maximum strength and striking ability, being able to easily dismantle the clones of Mamushi in quick succession, and blocking attacks it otherwise wouldn't have been able to. It's also been made into a partial scientific ninja tool, now equipped with an automatic function for Boruto's sword technique, Hagoromo. This allows it to maintain a constant flow of Boruto's energy once he has activated the jutsu. He doesn't have to consciously infuse it with his chakra. This also affords it one unique function, which is that it quickly expends the chakra of anyone that isn't registered to use it, a safety feature just in case a foe tries to steal it, as what happened in the case of the Shinju. There is currently 3 people registered to wield it: Boruto, Sasuke, and Sumire herself, since she needs to be able to work on it. This might become a massive issue since Hidari, who possesses Sasuke's chakra, might be able to wield it himself, so depending on what happens with that character, this could lead to a very dark future, or maybe a saving grace. We'll see. Now, what's most important here is the certain special material that has been infused into the katana. There is a reason why this was left unanswered, and also mentioned in the first place. Ikimoto knows that Boruto wouldn't bring his master's sword into a battle with someone who has the power to make it disappear forever by simply looking at it. There's too much sentimental value attached to it, which was explored in the battle versus Jura. Boruto could have charged this Uzuhiko for longer to make it strong enough to actually do some damage to Jura's body, but because he couldn't allow him to break his master's katana, he rushed into battle instead, hoping that the side effects of Uzuhiko would be enough to topple him. He took a massive risk, a very costly one, just to save his master's blade. So to then go and brandish it before someone who has the ability to make it disappear in the blink of an eye doesn't quite make sense. There must be a reason why he feels comfortable doing this, and it all goes back to that special material, which I believe is the body of the Ten Tails. You see, this has been foreshadowed ever since chapter 24, when Sumire was seen watching Kawaki's fight with Jura, using the scientific ninja tool embedded in his eyes. This footage was then referenced in chapter 27, with Amado noting that the trees can function as powerful weapons and impregnable shields. This was in reference to Jura summoning the roots of the Ten Tails to tank Kawaki's strongest attack, which made him believe that Jura might be impossible to kill. It now makes sense why Boruto said it's a technology that doesn't exist in our world as yet. He couldn't have been referencing a sword that simply has the ability to absorb chakra, since that was established in part 1. He himself used it. He also seemed surprised when she explained its abilities, which means whatever data he gave to Sumire wasn't about these unique functions, but more so about the technology that enables them, which stems from her current research. And if we assume that the material that was infused into the blade itself is why Kawaki isn't able to shrink it, this technology has to be something that's based on living organisms, since he can't shrink living things. That then leads me to the most logical conclusion, which is that this substance has to be genetic material derived from the body of the Ten Tails. Now, you guys might be wondering how I came to that conclusion. And the answer is that it really goes back to what was established in Naruto with the White Zetsus. These guys were originally the civilians captured through Infinite Tsukiyomi over 1,000 years ago, and slowly transformed into soldiers for Kaguya's army. They were then stored within the tree itself for many years, and after Madara awakened the Renegon, he summoned the body of the Ten Tails and used it to culture cells from the bits of flesh he took from Hashirama, which is how the White Zetsus themselves came to possess Hashirama cells as well. This is very important to note since these guys gained unique abilities because their cells were made from the power of the divine tree. They had the ability to absorb the chakra of anyone they came in contact with, and even go on to replicate their physical appearance using their chakra signature. Their cells also had immense vitality, which is why they were used to replace half of Obito's body, and even enhance his physical strength and chakra. The life energy within these cells were so powerful that Obito didn't need to eat or drink anymore. He essentially became self-sufficient because of his genetic makeup. They even refer to this material as synth tissue, which according to the internet is a type of artificial biological material used in scientific research, or the bioengineered living tissue that makes up the bodies of fictional synths from the Fallout video game series. And to bring this back to reality a bit more, synth tissue is just a cool way of saying synthetic tissue, which is a man-made material often built from the bottom up that mimics the structure and function of natural tissues. It can be made from non-living components or live cells, which is the key thing to take away from this, so you guys get the gist of what this is referring to. Now, in the context of the Naruto universe, it makes sense why this tissue created from the body of the Ten-Tails had this immense amount of life energy. The Ten-Tails itself, thus the body of the Ten-Tails, has a lot of life energy itself, which is why the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki doesn't die even if the Biju are extracted. So it makes sense that if substance made from the Ten-Tails was infused into Boruto's new katana, that his blade would also have that immense life force energy that stems from that independent living tissue. It also explains the absorption mechanic of Boruto's sword as well, since that is one of the main abilities of the Ten-Tails. That is why the White Zetsu also possessed that ability, and you could even argue the same for the Claw Grabs. Portions of the Ten-Tails body was able to create living independent organisms, the same way Kaguya's Ten-Tails created the White Zetsu. We also know that the humans captured by the God Tree go on to die eventually, as seen in Hagoromo's backstory, which means that the God Tree then infused them with its life force energy by transforming them using its genetic material, and that is how these beings are created. In both cases, these entities gain the life force energy of the Ten-Tails, and also its ability to absorb chakra, which stands to reason that if Boruto's sword was infused with this genetic material, it would also gain these abilities as well. Now that does leave the question of how, as in how did Sumire and Amado gain access to genetic material of the Ten-Tails? Well, it could be the case that Amado simply had these cells with him when he went to the village, which explains why he could tell that Jura was using the same Ten-Tails. Or it could also be the case that Sumire simply took samples from the bodies of the Kagrimes. There should be ample sample material spread throughout the village after the invasion in chapter 1, or they could have captured and restrained one of them using those jutsu negating handcuffs. This means that it couldn't escape using the claw marks, and neither could those embedded claw marks be activated for entry. They could have also taken samples from the Kagrimes that turned into trees in an effort to find a way to free the victims. Then during the research, they could have found a way to weaponize these cells to enhance their abilities, and the data Boruto gave them was the finishing touch. Who knows, maybe they tried to have Kawaki shrink one of these trees to free the victims and it simply didn't work, which then gave Sumire the idea to fashion that material into a weapon that could be used against him. There are many logical possibilities, but it all leads back to the genetic material of the Ten-Tails, which, by the way, Sumire is also thematically connected to. This goes back to her last name being Shigaraki, where the first kanji means death, the middle one means handle or pattern, and the last one means tree or wood. So the best interpretation of this would be handle of death or tree of death, which of course links back to the god tree which devours the life of a planet. This is somewhat similar to Nue, who has the ability to absorb the chakra of anyone it touches, along with the fact that the Gozu Tenno seal depicts the body of Nue with a third eye, similar to that of the Ten-Tails. So Nue's final form, if it actually got the chakra it needed, possibly possesses a third eye, maybe the Reni Sharingan or maybe even the Jogan, which would then explain why Boruto always activated his Jogan in the presence of Nue. There is also the fact that Keke, which is the name Sumire used to hide her true lineage actually refers to a Japanese-style bamboo, which is very interesting since the story of Princess Kaguya Hime is actually called The Tale of the Bamboo Cutter. That is because Kaguya was discovered as a baby inside the stalk of a glowing bamboo plant after she was sent to Earth. This of course links back to Kaguya's backstory in the Naruto universe, where she was found in a bamboo forest after arriving on the planet. So Sumire's character is interwoven into the very concept of the Ten Tails itself, which also serves to explain why she would be the one to discover its secrets and weaponize its abilities in the form of technology. Now, I did mention the addition of Shibai cells because I want to be open to other options. Everyone knows that the go-to Deus Ex Machina in the Naruto manga was Hashirama cells. Everyone that had it could cheat death, remove limitations from abilities, enhance existing jutsus, and even discover new ones. One could even argue that Sumire used Hashirama cells in Boruto's sword, since they also have similar life force properties to that of the Ten Tails. I mean, it makes sense since Hashirama is the only character to naturally awaken wood release, which is the main ability of the Ten Tails. So this guy is like a walking miracle. And I know there's this one databook scan that says Moegi can use wood style, but that's kinda iffy since we've never seen her use it. In any case, the point still stands and they could decide to go that route with Hashirama cells, and it could also make sense. Now, as for the all-powerful Shibai cells, it's pretty much what Hashirama cell was for Naruto. It makes people stronger, enhances abilities, and even gives them new ones. It's the new Deus Ex Machina that can be used to solve any problem or make any character stronger if the plot wants them to be. Now, since Sumire is working with Amado, maybe her research was based on those cells and how to properly weaponize them instead of just implanting them into others and hoping for the best, which is pretty much what Amado did. One could argue that Shibai, who ascended and left his body behind, did so because his life force became too powerful for his body to contain. So those cells left behind simply retained that leftover energy, which explains why they're still intact even after all this time. So if one was to infuse Boruto's sword with those cells, it would also possess that life force energy, making it impossible for Kawaki to shrink it. This can all make sense if Ikimoto wants it to make sense, but he could go a different route that I haven't thought of, and that would also be okay. I did, however, notice that Boruto's blade gains a darker hue after it came in contact with Mamushi, which could go on to bolster my Ten Tails material theory, since that could be due to resonance caused by their similar genetic makeup. Though it could also just be a stylistic choice and we're reading too much into it. I guess we'll see. With that said, that's it for the video. If you guys liked it, drop a like. If you're new, subscribe. And also, let me know your thoughts. Do you think it's some sort of adamantine material or some other alien substance that they discovered off screen? Or do you think the Ten Tails theory makes the most sense? Also, if you want to learn more about Momoshiki's abilities that were hidden in the novels, check out the video on screen.